Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Mish Schneider, Director of Trading Education at MarketGauge. Mish, it's great to see you. As always, welcome back to Trade Talks.
Thank you so much for having me back.
All right, it's a big day. Friday, June 24th, the rebalancing of the Russell. A lot happens at the close today.
Well, what happens basically is that certain instruments get dropped from the index while others remain. So you might get a big volume surge at the end of the day, which would be atypical from what a normal volume surge might look like on the end of any Friday in a given week. Of course, this week is crazy all around, but it's considered to be a big event because it is 2,000 just in the IWM, in the Russell 2000 alone. And so as they do this rebalancing, there will be companies that will actually really have trouble if they get dropped from the index. And it'll be interesting to see particularly which companies they are, because they may give us somewhat of an idea of what's to be expected in the future as far as other companies maybe not doing so well.
And Mish, it's interesting. This week's stock gains, it feels like it's more of a shift rather than a full risk on rally. Are these bounces to be trusted at this point?
Well, this is really where you have to have two heads, the fundamental head and then the technical head. And there are people who think that you're either purely technical or purely fundamental. I really like to try to combine the two. And that actually has made somewhat of a confusing picture, because if you listen to what Powell said, he said a lot of different things. The market heard that he's going to be a bit more dovish than what they initially thought, even though he clearly said that he can't control inflation when it comes to energy and fuel, but that on the other hand, the economy is in good shape. And they're looking at another 75 basis points, but at the same time, he feels that he can accomplish the soft landing. So the market heard soft landing, rates may not go that much higher. And of course, we saw a lot of drop in commodities prices this week. So it was really the retail investor who came in like gangbusters. So that's the fundamental. Is that sustainable? We don't know. Am I skeptical about the sustainability of that? Yes. But now if we move to the technical picture, I love looking at my economic modern family.
Yeah, and tell us about that, because we've discussed this before.
Yes, and the reason why I even came up with the whole idea of the economic modern family is because it tells a story. It tells a story not only of what the US economy is doing, but it tells a story of how that is reflected in terms of sentiment in the market and then the market itself. So the granddaddy is the Russell 2000. Now, what's interesting is that the Russell 2000 of the four indices is the only one that broke under its 200-week moving average. So currently, under that is very weak. Obviously, we call that a weekly distribution phase. With today's rally, as impressive as it feels right now, it's still under the 200-week, and it's still having an inside week from last week. Now, we do have the rebalancing, so we'll see what happens there. But come Monday, it'll be very interesting to see if that can get follow through or not. And I think it's key because obviously industrial manufacturing is super important. The retail sector, of course, 2/3 of the GDP is the consumer. In some ways, consumer confidence has been horrific, but on other levels, there's still savings there, and there's still a lot of room for consumer credit to be breached in terms of going up to ridiculous levels before people worry about default. And the consumer came back strong. And so that has been an area that's outperformed right now, XRT, and actually held the 200-week, never had a weekly close below it. And now, of course, we're seeing this huge rally above it. And then the other one I really want to talk about is IYT, because that's transportation, and that's really also been underperforming until today. Great results out of FedEx helped that, and also just a lot of short covering. So if you put those three inside markets together, it's still uncertain. Is this a technical bounce above the 200-week in those two that will fail eventually? Maybe. Or is IWM still lagging, and now next week we'll play some serious catch up and we get another nice big rally out of this move until we get some kind of reset maybe in July, mid-July. Yeah. The other, just to wrap up, biotechnologies is super important to mention because that really has almost led this rally, but it's recession proof or non-cyclical in a sense and a cyclical in a sense. It had a nice double bottom at IBB at around 105, got up to around 119. We're getting into some resistance zone. So that too will be a very interesting one to watch. The others are semiconductors and regional banks, and they actually are relatively underperforming, although still well above their 200-week moving average. So yeah, mixed bag.
Certainly a mixed bag for sure. Mish, appreciate the insight as always. Thank you for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you so much.